A welcome to our panelists and attendees of the third webinar of ICROM Terra series, Understanding Practices and Rethinking Earthen Heritage for Community Development, held as part of ICROM lecture series. Pleased to introduce myself, Shireen Sahouri, Manager of Outreach and Development at ICROM Sharjah. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, ICROM, the International Center for the Study of Preservation and Restoration of Cultural Property, is the intergovernmental organization working in service to its 137 member states for promoting the conservation of all forms of cultural heritage in every region of the world. This webinar is a follow-up of the Terra 2022 World Congress, which took place in Santa Fe, New Mexico, in early June 2022. ICROM Sharjah, through this Congress, has supported 12 scholars from the MENA, OIC, and Africa regions, thanks to the government of Sharjah, to address global issues on climate change and sustainability by creating a network to exchange knowledge and experience. ICROM has implemented in the past few years several activities on the topic. One example is the panel discussion on culture for a sustainable future in the Arab region, as one of Climate Culture Peace Conference, in bringing together the full range of human experience from the past into the present, which is essential to creating a sustainable future. This conference was about gathering voices from different backgrounds, ages, and fields to exchange their knowledge and information, to identify the links between climate, culture, and peace. Panel presentation illustrated how cultural heritage and traditional sustainable practices can help promote nature-based solutions for a better future of our planet and humanity. It featured case studies from Algeria, Egypt, Iraq, Sudan, and Yemen. Another follow-up event was the webinar held last year in cooperation with ICOMOS Jordan to tackle one of the most critical threats to the Arab region's heritage, climate change. Also, different short courses on earthen architecture have been organized by ICROM Sharjah in the past few years. We are very excited once again to have this fabulous group together today on this platform to discuss and learn more on rethinking earthen architecture for community development. I now give the floor to Ms. Tin Hinan to moderate this session. Thank you all again for joining us.
Thank you, Shireen. Good morning or good evening, everyone. I'm Tin Hinan Bashir Sharif, a PhD candidate in architecture and heritage at Salah Boubnider University, Constantine III in Algeria. Before I proceed, I would like to inform you that you can send your questions and comments via the Q&A icon you see in the bottom of the Zoom window. We will answer some questions after the presentation of our panelists. Without further ado, please welcome our first panelist, Nader Imami from Iran. He is a holder of a Bachelor of Science in Hotel Development from New York University, while working on the conservation of a series of heritage houses in the historic city of Yazd in Iran. Nader and his family rediscovered their ancestral home in Yazd and collectively decide to dedicate the house to the field of art and architecture by creating a non-profit center. Today, Nader will present Ahmed Larry House Foundation, and together with other co-founders, aims to pursue the goals of the foundation to create a vibrant center for the benefits of all while restoring the foundation's historical buildings. The floor is yours, Nader.
Thank you, Tin Hinan, for the introduction. Since I only have 10 minutes and I would like to show a video before showing you a little presentation, I don't have much time to talk, but just to give you a brief introduction, the video that I'm about to show you is about a historic house in the historic city center of Yazd. And this video was made for Terra 2022 World Congress. And the purpose was to show the role of this house and the foundation we created in the city of Yazd and how we interact with our surrounding community. So I will show you an extract of the video, which is also available on YouTube, and I will also post a link in my presentation. And then I will just briefly tell you what we've been doing since the Terra Congress, and I'm open to any questions you might have.
Can you play the video?
Sorry, apparently you can't hear the video. 1 second.
It's not even playing. Please
So
play it.
Nader should play the video first, because it's
Okay, 1 second.
Yeah.
Can you see the video now?
Yes, we can see it. You have to play it.
Please push the button of play. You're not playing the video. You are showing the screen, but you're not playing the video.
Apparently I'm having technical difficulty with the video. Is it possible to go to the next panelist and then we come back to my video?
And also we can share from our side and play for you. If you send
excuse me,
WhatsApp.
Nader. So maybe you can send the link to Elisa and she will play it for you later. Okay. So
Okay.
we are going to move to our second panelist, then we will come back to you.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you so much. Okay, so sorry for this technical issue. So now I request Toka Al-Oran, architect and conservation leader with 5 years of experience in managing heritage and archaeological sites in restoration projects. She holds a Bachelor of Architecture degree from Hashemite University in Jordan. She currently works at Termim Center in Jordan, where she is responsible for leading heritage projects management. Her presentation today will focus on the rebirth of Earthen villages through the implementation of a community-based tourism, CBT model, taken as case study Matan village. So I now turn the floor over to Toka Al-Oran for her presentation. Toka, please. Toka, you are unmuted. Please unmute yourself.
All right.
Thank you.
Now, can you hear me?
We hear you very
All
good.
right.
Thank
All
you.
right. Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Toka Al-Oran. Today, I will be sharing one of the most significant projects we handled at the Termim Center. First of all, this is my CV. I'm an architect and conservation leader in Termim Center in Jordan. The project is heritage value as a driver for economic growth through participatory community-based tourism. As you can see, in the last decades of Jordan, many of heritage villages have been abandoned and not illegal. Due to factors such as migration process to urban areas, leaving farm due to desertification and lack of water. To address this issue, we choose to conduct an on-site study focusing particularly on the southern region of Jordan, and especially in a specific Tafila governorate. In this place, we just 3 out of 50 heritage villages have undergone partial restoration efforts in the past decades. Using the standard of CPT, we analyzed 2 existing models in the area to create a more particular and sustainable model. Our findings are as follows. As you can see in Sela village, we have an governmental ownership, governmental restoration, and local administration. But in Dhana village, we have an ownership from local. The approach is adaptive reuse, and administration is handled by an NGOs. About our model that we create, or in the new virgin model we conducted in Martin village, it's based on local ownership, non-governmental specialist restoration, and cooperation of locals and NGOs in the administration. This is an exterior shot of Al-Ma'tan as seen. Here is the external wall and internal wall. The internal wall are made of mud brick, and as you see on the photos, these all internal walls, and the external walls constructed with stone under mud mortar, as you see in the photos. And the surface of exterior wall is finished with multiple layers of Tiban tempered samaga plaster, which is all made of mud and soil. As you see in the picture, we have stone and 6 layers of Tiban with samaga. And this is zoom in. All right. The house roof were built using juniper beam as a support with carefully aligned reed stems. You can see the juniper here and the aligned stems or reed stems. This juniper . All right. The house roof, as you say, was built with the juniper and aligned reed system with a shrubby packing layer of billan as an insulation system. The billan is topped by thick layer of sediment with stony inclusion with a top layer of Tiban tempered samaga, as you see on the photos. Okay. Move on. In addition to use the samaga or the mud mortar in wall plaster, it was important in the construction of household furniture such as shelves, niche, and sleeping platform, as well as on floor, and to shape hearth features, as you see on the pictures. Okay. The map displays the master plan of Ma'tan village, where we have preserved five of the 60 heritage houses to reuse them in a new serving function within the tourism sector by create, as we can say, a living heritage museum that include accommodation, library, entertainment kitchen, and public services. All of these functions will support the community's involvement in the tourism industry. Okay. Back to the vision of the whole project that we have, which is the development of sustainable community tourism in the village of Ma'tan in partnership with the local community by the community-based tourism CPT. And we achieved this vision by two components: development a participatory model for tourism model, and heritage development through community engagement. So this vision doesn't be real without involve the local community in every step of the rebirth process, from planning, design, implementation, ongoing management, and empower them to take ownership of their cultural heritage. The central question is how we can turn the local community from adversaries to become keepers of this village, or of our vision as well. This can be achieved by a variety of programs, or we can say multidisciplinary of programs that include, first of all, research and documentation. The community partners with heritage specialists that document tangible and intangible features of the village. This information is used to address the community's need and priorities. As you see on the pictures, women from the village documented their heritage, numbered, and describe its structural elements. All of these photos is from local women. And youth, especially fresh graduated, assisted with measurement and drafting through a comprehensive plan. Okay, move on the second program, which is planning and design. The community collaborated with heritage experts to plan for the restoration and preservation of the site. This includes meeting with the Termim team and local initiatives and members, as you see on the pictures. About community engagement and education, regular meetings and workshops keep the community informed and involved in the project. Feedback is gathered from all members, including women, as you see in the picture, and we have children and high school students who collaborated with the team, with our team, to reconstruct the village's roof system using a robotic technology, as you see in the picture. This project was a success, resulting in a third place when a national robotic competition. About implementation and construction, under the guidance of heritage experts, the community participate in the restoration and construction process. One collaborative effort involved reconstructed a roof using reeds, beginning with peeling, as you see, peeling the reeds with help from Syrian women living near the village. A workshop, as you can see in the picture, we held it to teach young people the basis of reed insulation, and this resulting in a successful insulation phase. And here is the result. Okay. About maintenance and management, the community assumes the responsibility for the ongoing maintenance and management for the heritage site and preserve it for a future generation. This was achieved through an operating agreement with a local association, which called Himmetna Ghair, and trained them on the basis of managing heritage site for a tourism sector. When we're going to the community empowerment, we empowered community to develop a sustainable tourism activities centered around the heritage site by providing economic benefit. This achieved through field visit from the restoration team to local women in specific to learn about the project works and to revive traditional crafts that they work on it. as well as through an interactive game designed to increase children connection. As you see in this picture, we create a puzzle that could help to know more about the architectural features in the village. And the games was tried on a local children's, and the game was well received, as you see on the pictures. The last program we have is about sustainable tourism. The community can promote sustainable tourism centered around the heritage site, leading to economic benefit, while achieved by partnership with a local organization that hosts tourism groups and create a tourism experiential trails in Al-Ma'tan heritage. The most remarkable that I was in love with this, the most remarkable success is that the restored area of Al-Ma'tan, what we restored, this has been selected as a filming location for a well-known Korean film. The film's trailer will be launched, as I know, in late January, and the movie itself is set to be released in February. Make sure to catch the movie, and I will sharing with you the name on the slide for whom interested. I think that this is a great achievement for the heritage site and the community using the site as a filming location for a famous Korean film. It can be keeping the site well maintained and promoting sustainable tourism on it. Okay, back to the final slide we have. In conclusion, this project successfully rebirthed heritage through community, and I'm grateful for everyone who worked with Termim. I would like to introduce them to you as a protector for the treasure. We have the restorers. I could categorize them as well. We have the stakeholders, the preservers, the keepers, and finally, the future keepers. Thank you for all.
Thank you very much, Toka Al-Oran, for your presentation. It's really provide an excellent example of how local communities can be involved in cultural heritage while managing tourism activities and generating economic benefits. What is more interesting in your presentation that this experience can be transferred to other villages or even to other countries. Thank you very much again. So we return to Nader. Hope that the technical issue have been solved. So can you share again the video?
Yes, hopefully it will work this time.
Thank you.
یزد به واسطه حفظ اصالت و یکپارچگی در طول 1000 سال و همچنین فرهنگ حفاظت مدار مردم اون که با تغییر و تداوم روش‌های سکونت در این سرزمین کبیری رو یاد گرفتن به نسل و سینه به سینه منتقل کردن، امروز تبدیل به یک دانشگاه بزرگ هنر و معماری به وسعت 1000 هکتار شده. خاندان لاری که به واسطه موقعیت تجاری مناسب یزد از منطقه فارس به یزد مهاجرت کرده بودند، یکی از معروفترین اون خانواده ها هستند که در دوره قاجار حدود 200 سال پیش در یزد ساکن شدند و با تجاری از هندوستان تا انگلستان مراودات اقتصادی داشتند.
They built a series of houses as well as public spaces such as hammams, mosques, and water cisterns. Many of these, including Ahmad Lari House, are located in the Fahadan district, a prime location in the historic center of Yazd. Our immediate mission as grandchildren of Ahmad Lari was to preserve the house from imminent danger of collapse, especially in some major parts such as the Grand Talar. If this happened, it would also bring down with it the majestic budgear of the house, believed to be the second tallest wind catcher in the city of Yazd. Our task was complex and a race against time. Any action needed immediate financial resources as well as in-depth technical study of the house and its urgent conservation needs. With the support of family and friends, we managed to raise some funds.
همونطور که در اسناد پرونده ثبت جهانی یزد نیز اشاره شده، مرمت و احیای خانه لاری ها در محله فهادان و استقرار دفتر سازمان حفاظت آثار باستانی در 3 دهه پیش از نقاط عطف تاریخ حفاظت و مرمت یزد در نیم قرن اخیر محسوب میشه. حرکتی هوشمندانه که سبب تداوم حفاظت و مرمت خانه های خشتی که اکثراً متروک و رو به ویرانی بودن شد. در ادامه اون جریان مرمت و تغییر کاربری تعدادی از خانه‌های خشتی و استفاده به عنوان دانشکده هنر و معماری سبب پرورش دانشجویانی شد که امروزه از حامیان و فعالان و مرمتگران بافت تاریخی یزد هستند.
From the very beginning, we realized that in order to bring the house back to its original splendor, it was essential to preserve the originality of spaces and architectural elements. This required preservation and revival of traditional architectural know-how. We also realized that Yazd had very few spaces allocated to contemporary art. Additionally, many old handicrafts, including textile weaving, were on the brink of extinction. Following a collective family decision, Ahmad Lari House Foundation for Art and Architecture was created in July 2019 in order to serve these purposes. Our intention was to use the potential offered by different spaces of the house and to adapt them to contemporary needs.
امروز تاریخ تکرار شده است و پس از 30 سال و در همان کوچه و مقابل خانه لاری ها مجموعه ارزشمند از خانه های خشتی متعلق به اجداد خانواده لاری در حال مرمت جهت استفاده به عنوان مؤسسه هنر و معماری است. هدف این مؤسسه حفاظت و مرمت این مجموعه ارزشمند با استفاده از نیروی جوانان متخصص در کنار تجربه استادکاران و معماران سنتی و با رعایت اصول بکارگیری مصالح و فنون ساخت اصیل است.
The activities of ALH Foundation began in 2019 with emergency restoration of its own premises. The foundation's aim was to serve as an example for other ongoing and future conservation and restoration projects in Yazd and beyond. We therefore consulted various experts in the fields of architecture, interior design, urban planning, and other related fields. The group decision was to preserve the authenticity of the structure and materials used in the construction of the house. Original adobe and bricks and other material available on site would be used wherever possible, and if necessary, similar material would be procured. Designs and patterns used on the floors and ceilings, windows, entrances, and other spaces and elements would serve as reference for recreating the same. Special attention would also be given to conveying the authentic spirit of the house and its gardens, which always played a central role in historic houses in Yazd.
با مستندنگاری دقیق مراحل مرمت، محتواهای آموزشی مناسبی رو جهت برگزاری دوره‌ها و کارگاه‌های اختصاصی در آینده فراهم می‌کند.
We wanted to raise awareness on the necessity to save historic houses as well as on the importance of appropriate restoration methods and techniques. We invited professionals as well as owners of other historic houses and even an interested public to visit the house. In this way, our restoration workshop would become an educational tool. Ever since the activities of ALH started, we have realized that several houses in the proximity have been newly purchased and are being restored. For the neighbors, any new restoration and rehabilitation project brings more security and liveliness to the neighborhood.
همونطور که میبینید این فضا نیازمند اقدامات اورژانسی و مرمت اضطراریه تا اونطور که در شأن اینجاست حفاظت و مراقبت بشه ازش و ما بتونیم این امانتی که از گذشتگان به دست ما رسیده به نسل‌های آینده بسپاریم. معماری فقط خشت و گل و طاق و ایوان نیست و تفاوت اصلی اون با ساختمان روح حاکم بر فضا و ارتباط با عناصر طبیعی و گل و باغچه و آب و آسمانه.
What was undertaken up to now would not have been possible without the financial support we received from family and friends, as well as the commitment, expertise, and passion of people involved in the project.
I think it would be a pity not to preserve it. We have to revive it. I think this is an appeal, and I personally am doing my best, and everybody is doing what they can to revive this house, to give it back its former beauty and glory and use.
However, much still remains to be done. In addition to the two courtyards, which each represent a complete introverted Persian house and are still in need of restoration, we also have to preserve the valuable third courtyard in its current semi-built status. It will only be with national and international support, both in terms of funds and know-how, that we will be able to pursue the goals of the foundation and to hand over this precious architectural heritage to future generations.
So I hope you enjoyed the video. Although it seems like a very grand project, it is managed by a very small team. The people you saw in the video, one was my mother, Nilufar Lari, and her cousin Mina Lari, who are also the co-founders, and also Mr. Mohammad Hosseini, who is the manager of our workshop for restoration. So since I don't have much time, I will just wrap it up really quickly with a brief presentation. And I will just tell you what we've been doing for the past 6 months since this video was shown. So if you're interested to watch the video or share it with others, you can find it in this on this link on YouTube. I hope we can share this presentation with everyone on this Zoom meeting. So things that we've been doing ever since, we had a major flooding that was devastating for the city of Yazd, and our foundation was no exception. The walls of the water collection wells broke and water came into our basements. And although we received a lot of damage, ever since we've been trying to minimize and also prevent future damage, because if you saw the photos of Yazd, it's like an ecosystem. All the houses are connected to each other. And if the whole city is not well maintained, each house can damage other houses, and it's a collective effort that should be done between the private sector, the municipality, the Ministry for Heritage, and it's a massive task, but we're trying to do our best to collaborate with the city. And other than the flood, we've been restoring the Grand Reception Hall, which is the largest space in the historic house. And as you can see in this before-after photo, we try to intervene as not like the least possible to keep the authenticity of the house. This was 2 months ago during the restoration, which is now complete. This is another view of the reception hall. And also just to briefly go over the relation between the Ahmad Lari house and the local community. Ever since it was built by the Lari family, the family also built a hammam, a mosque, a bazaar, and it was in complete harmony with its neighborhood. And over the past, let's say 10 decades, a lot has changed in the city of Yazd, but we're trying to give this house a new purpose, a new meaning. And although it has been partially restored, but we've also been trying to do events, art expos, and meetings with local experts and also international experts on how to proceed with the house. And in the future, when the restoration is complete, hopefully it will play an active role in the city of Yazd to become a center for art and architecture. I'm sorry I had to be very fast with this presentation, and you can have my contact details on this last page. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer at the end of the session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nader, for sharing this beautiful side of Iran. And thank you for being with your family advocate for heritage conservation, and to prove once again that where there is a will, there is a way. So no matter what the challenge is. Thank you very much. So from Asia, let's move on to Africa with our guests, Dr. Abdul Rahman Medhat. He is a bachelor's degree in archaeological conservation at Cairo University. He is a PhD, archaeometrist and painted wood conservator. He works at the Egyptian Museum, and he is a lecturer at Ain Shams University and Mass University for Science and Technology. Dr. Abdul Rahman is also a member of scientific and technical offices of the Egyptian Ministry of Antiquities. His presentation today will be on the influence of climate change on the selected Egyptian earthen structure archaeological sites. I now turn the floor over to Dr. Abdul Rahman Medhat for his presentation. Are you with us?
Thank you very much, Dr. Tian, for giving me introduction. I'm really grateful to you, and really thank you very much for the chance to being with you today. Really, it's an honor for me, and I will share my screen now. It works. I'm trying to share my screen. Does it work?
Yes, it's working, but you should put it on the full screen, please.
I will do that. Should be now.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. So my presentation today, it is about the influence of climate change on the selected Egyptian earthen structure archaeological site. And it's assessing impact and developing a strategy for conservation and mitigation. So the summary of the presentation, it will be first the introduction, the aim of the presentation, methodology, interpretation of results, the problem encountered in the present research, conclusion, and future work. So the objective of this study to research, predict, and describe the effect of climate change on Egypt and Sudanese cultural heritage site over the next 20 years. But here my presentation will be focused on the Western Desert, and especially Balat as an example for earthen structure city. Then to develop mitigation and adaptation strategy for historic building sites, monuments, and to understand the material which strongly affected by climate change effect. And then going to provide electronic information sources and tool. And I'm trying to make a web-based climate risk map and vulnerability of heritage manager to assess the threats of climate change on the earthen structure. And I will use also monitor different adoption strategy. Then I'm elaborate on the most sustainable risks of change climate condition on the archaeological sites in Egypt. Here is the geological map of Egypt, and I will focus on the Western Desert, the Western Desert in Egypt, and I will take Balat as an example for the earthen structure. This is a geological map for the Western Desert, and we are going here in the place with the green one, which is Dakhla, the light green one, Dakhla Formation, and the geological the geological map and the geological column showing here very important nature for the stratigraphy in this place. It's mainly from sand, but besides these sand sheets, there are an old playa and the old clay, and this is makes them the problem, which is the land subsidence. So there are many deterioration factors because of climate change happen in Egypt, like the land subsidence, the gas chambers happen in the soil, a lot of rain, winds, desert, tectonic movement, earthquake, underground water, a lot of fluctuation in temperature and relative humidity, and there are change happen in the land use and the demography too. So here it's the panorama or overview for the earthen structure city called Balat. It's in the Western Desert, and while we are dealing with this city, we're trying to reach to integrated approach or gestalt approach, which include many aspects we should put in our mind while we are working on it to understand it better, the culture heritage material. And these aspects should be like the art, archaeology, archaeometry, material, science, conservation, restoration, archaeometry, historical context. All of this is combined to reach to integrated approach to better understanding the earthen structure and the mud brick also behavior. Here is two maps. One of them, it's for the Western Desert. And as I said, Balat located in Dakhla, Oasis. And on the right, there is the geological map I showed to you before. So this is very important. This is a tectonic or the basement tectonic map for Egypt, and especially for the Western Desert. And I will say why this is important, because it shows that there are many uplifts in the Western Desert, even some of them in the Red Sea. And as you know, the Red Sea is the only sea in the world which is the bottom of it is basalt. So it makes a lot of tectonic movement and blooming. And this is make a lot of earthquakes happens in the Western Desert. And it's play a role also for changing the nature of it with time. Here is the climate data. I reached to it from Egypt Meteorological Authority, and we will find in number 9, Dakhla. It is a place of the Balat located on it. There are an average for the temperature, the rain, the humidity, the wind, but also you can see a lot of fluctuation between the temperature in day and night, especially in winter and summer. And this is effect on the mud brick, which is the main unit for the earthen structure. And as we know that mud brick contains a lot of clay minerals. And with this fluctuation of temperature and humidity and the dryness, it makes cracks inside it. And these cracks develop from micro cracks to being very big cracks and very active cracks, which I will show in the next slides. So according to that, what will happen to the Western Desert? We will have land subsidence, and this is happened because we have a gas chambers in the sand, and there is a lot of acidic rains happen, a lot of change in temperature which affect on the material we have. And what we will lose? our laws not only will be for the earthen structure, but also for the people, because there are thousands of people, their life will stop because of the climate change in this Western desert. And also most ancient and authentic earthen structure we have in Egypt, and one of the most in the world, like Palat and the Kasr city, will be loose. And the serious and the first problem we face in Palat is the land subsidence. So if we didn't make a conservation and the mitigation plan, what we will lose here, first, I should say the most stressors I collect from visiting a study to this area, and we will find that most of them is lack of awareness, wind, rain and flood, and earthquake. And of course, there are some fires happening. This is a panorama for the Palat earthen structure, and it dating back to the 17th century, so it's quite old. And here is the deterioration now. We reach to all of this dolomation and the collapse because of land subsidence. And again, the geology in this Western desert is very distinguished because we have stratigraphy of sand sheets and beside them clay. And what happens that's with dryness and high heat, that they are very compact, so they making the structure happen land subsidence under it. So the foundation, there is a gap of air between the soil and the structure, and this is make a lot of dolomation, a lot of collapse happen. Also here there is micro cracks you can find, and also you can see that's a lot of peeling out for the whitewash layer on the houses appears. Here there is an example, I put arrows for it because really it's a serious problem. This is an active cracks, and this is not only, there are some crack active and others dormant, doesn't work, but this is active, and this is happening because there is a land subsidence under the structure. So we should make intervention to stop this, or we will lose most of this city. So the methodology, while we are dealing with earthen structure setters, it should be include fast possible track passes and also mega project. And here I confirmed what I heard from my colleagues today, that we need funds doing that, and also we need to save the authentic. This is very important to save the authenticity of this material. And here comes the role of conservation. We don't want to make a consolidation for this moral painting, and this is earthen structure, and turn it to block of plastic. But we need to work on the conservation level to find a material compatible with the behavior of mud brick. Don't turn it into, or don't convert it into block of plastic. It should be authentic in its structure, authentic as a mud brick. So here we are going to choose different material to make experimental study, like organic natural consolidant, wax animal glue, natural gum, and also some fillers like bazolinic material, brick powder, and there are synthetic material already used as a Vacar OH, Polaroid B82, and the Polaroid B72. But if I wanted to just give a quick advice for choosing the material for consolidation of the mud brick, please focus on something called the rheology of the material, and especially the best rheology of the material with to choose to dealing with mud brick after a lot of experimental work. It is a Newtonian fluid material, which give you a very compatible behavior with the mud brick, so you don't lose it. It is still mud brick, it's not a block of plastic, and also it can make its role functionally. So the action overview of conservation and the mitigation methodology, we need to make a preventive action, and this includes monitoring, reporting, and the mitigation of climate change, and doing that as an individual and as an institution, and we should cooperation together. we should make a corrective actions, and this is by global and regional strategy and local management plan, because the behavior of people, effect of climate of a change, effect on our earthen structure. Then conservation action, and I am working in 2 scales for that. First is to making a conservation plan, making periodical examination for the earthen structure cities in Egypt. And the second scale is to develop a compatible polymer, could be used as a consolidation and protection for this earthen structure from 2 points of view. First, as a mud brick, which is the unit of building this earthen structure, and also as an injection material for stop this land subsidence. And really thank you for your attention. All questions, comments, and thoughts are all appreciated. And here is my contact, and thanks a lot for giving me this chance. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Abdul Rahman, for your presentation, which is making headlines these days, not only in Egypt, but all over the world. Climate change may accelerate the degradation of archaeological sites and lead to the loss of important historical heritage. So this kind of study allows us to assess the current condition of preservation and to consider the gravity of the situation in order to preserve our archaeological heritage. Thank you very much. So I will invite our last panelist, Dr. Osobisako from Mali. He is a full-time professor of architecture and at Kyoto Seika University in Japan. He got a bachelor degree from Southeast University, Nanjing, China, and got a master degree and a doctor degree of engineering in the field of architecture and architecture planning from the Graduate School of Engineering at Kyoto University, Japan. He has served as president of Kyoto Seika University since April 2022, along with his title as the vice president of the Japan Association for the World Expo 2025, is also serving as the director of Institute of Integrated Research and director of the Center for African Asian Contemporary Cultural Studies. Dr. Osobisako will give presentation on rethinking about community development through earthen architecture conservation activities in Sahel-Sahara region, as case of study Mauritania and Mali. I invite Dr. Professor Sako for make his presentation.
Thank you very much, Hinan, for the introduction. So I will share my slide and then I'll go through it. Okay, thank you, everyone. So my presentation will be mainly to point out some earthen architecture role, which was really very important as a cultural identity, and also what was the meaning for the community establishment. And also, I think it's very important to know the architecture and the know-how and all what we have as heritage in this region and also to conserve them in the aim also to really, conserve a historical important moment for this region. So the aim of this presentation is to point out the importance of local community involvement in the conservation process and also how that contribute to their improvement. So I will be, talking about 2 countries, but before that, by introducing myself, because I'm living and working in Japan, so I wanted just to introduce you briefly what I'm doing as work in Japan here. So I'm now teaching architecture, but I'm doing more work on the spatial anthropology, and which is really the human-based design. So I'm teaching students about the community regeneration and also the conservation of not only heritages but the houses and all those projects. So for me, the definition of conservation in architectural context is very important. So if we talk about conservation, it is the process of examining, researching, maintaining, and preserving cultural heritage. So it includes two elements, so prevention and intervention, with the latter being more common in cultural heritage conservation. So in architectural conservation, intervention is the process of carefully planned works and activities to prolong the life of a building without damaging material, historical, and aesthetic integrity. So those things are very important for us. So I will not go through the detail, but we have the physical condition to preserve, we have the management context, and also we have the cultural and social values. So I will be mainly talking about these cultural and social values. So what we are trying, I'm trying to do in Japan also is also to learn about the conservation. So I'm living in Kyoto, which has been the capital city for Japan for 1,100 years. So it is a city of 1,200 something years. And then, so we have about 18 World Heritage in this single city here. So in Japan, when you go, through, conservation policies, it's very complex because it goes to tangible and intangible, and also to some cultural, for cultural properties and monuments, and also landscapes and group of a lot of things. And for example, if you see this Shirakawa village in Japan, so which is really well conserved. But the biggest problem in Japan in conservation, so after a village or a place being appointed as preserved area, so the problem is people can sometimes continue to live in it, and then it became a kind of just simple touristic area. And also recently we have this site of Japan Meiji Industrial Revolution, so iron and steel, shipbuilding and coal mining places, so which was a little bit controversially as a preserved area. In architecture, we have also the Katsura traditional townhouse, which is really very important for conservation also. And then we have also recently I'm working more on the preservation and renovation of the townhouses, because the townhouses are disappearing in Japan, and then because people are inherited, but they don't have really any people to inherit what they have. So then we have more and more empty houses. So you can see the numbers. I'm sorry, it's in Japanese, but in Kyoto, now we have about 14% of houses empty, vacant. So, and then try to take some of them to preserve, to see, to work on it, and then to see exactly, to do workshop and see, how we can conserve it. And also as universities, also the university also is taking some of these kind of places and trying to work on them as a preservation. So that's what I'm doing with my students. And we are trying also to point out some places and see. So today's talk will be mainly on the earthen architecture conservation in the Sahel-Sahara area. So if you are not familiar about this area, we'll talk a little bit about the trans-Saharan trade. So the trade is a trade across the desert Sahara between Mediterranean countries and sub-Sahara Africa. So while existing from prehistoric times, the peak of such trade extended from the 8th century until the late 16th century. So if you can see the major trade routes in the Middle Ages and also in the Sahel area. So I'm working mainly to see what was the cultural transition and also influence between different cities within this trade area. So, for example, I'm working on Timbuktu. I try to see Gao and also cities in Mauritania and also in other areas, actually. So the impact of trans-Saharan trade was development of civilization, Islamic culture, and cultural development, language, writing, music, performing arts, commercial development, trade markets, logistics, technology development, intellectual activities, and scale. So not only external development, but also internal development was observed. So talking about Mauritania, so I will talk about two cities in Mauritania. So if you go to Mauritania and see, what they call the ancient kusur during the trade. So it's a package which has been the World Heritage. So it's Wadan, Shingeti, Tishit, and Walata. So you can see some influence of Moroccan architecture or some Middle East, and then also they have their own. So talking about Shingeti, which I visited and did some research there. So it's almost like, it's an oasis area, but it's like it's a desert, and Wadan also as well. So, so what I try to see here, so what are the conservation projects and how the local population try to preserve their own places. And there were also one other problem, which was very interesting. That's also the manuscripts, because people actually, they own a lot of manuscripts, but they don't want to give to the government to conserve them. And then they are trying also to preserve, because this is really, for them, a kind of pride, because this is a kind of family heritage, and then they don't want to share with anyone. But I met this one who built a house actually to, find a place for his manuscript. But as you see, the deterioration of preservation status as a private historical resource is really limited. And then you can see a lot of damage. But he's still, doing his best, trying to show to people what he has. And also, I try to understand actually, the space he built for the conservation of his manuscripts. And then it was very interesting, because even in the technical way, you can see that he brings some techniques from other places. So talking about Mali historical cities, so I work more on Djenné. And then Djenné is a very complex city, and then it was in the World Heritage since many years. And then the most interesting in Djenné, it's on all is earthen architecture, but recently people try to add other materials. So this is the Great Mosque of Djenné in the middle of the city, and which is also surrounded by a market. So there were a lot of conservation projects in Djenné since Djenné was subscribed in the UNESCO list. And then so you can see all those projects, and then which also, I wanted to point out here, all those projects were financed or take over with outside people and outside, sometimes organization to Mali. So talking a little bit about Djenné. So Djenné has what we call a Sudan-style architecture, so which was mainly built on the 13th century, but by the king Kanku Musa, and also by bringing the Andalusian architect and poet Abu Ishaq el-Sahil. And then this combination of vernacular and Andalusian techniques was very interesting in that time. So if you go to Djenné, you can see that the house represents people, ethnic groups, and also their social status, and then you can find a lot of things. And then also, if you talk a little bit about the structure of the house and the design, you can see that it starts by a vestibule, like by an entrance house, and after you go to the courtyard. But you are not directly connected to the courtyard, because the courtyard is for women and also kids. And then in Djenné, it's, until the French people came, they were using what they call the Djenné ferry, which is a kind of circular brick, and made by their hand. And then after they moved to the what they call Tubabu ferry, that's meant the Western bricks for them. So, and then also in Djenné, it's very interesting because the preparation of the mud, the mortar to cover the houses are very important. And then also this is one of the restoration event, which is also very important in Djenné. So I try to see, what is more conserved in Djenné, and then try to see, the manuscripts, which is really well conserved than the Mauritanian one, and then to see what that also means to them. And I was also working to see how the local masons are involved into the Djenné conservation. So in Djenné, it's very interesting to know what the masons are. So we call them the Bari, and then their association is the baritone. So in historic Malian cities such as Djenné and Timbuktu, the building process itself is a kind of family and community practice shaped by the particular ties between traditional builders, masons, and the family who own the houses. A family has its own mason as much as the mason has his own family. So the relationship goes from father to son on both sides and lasts at a lifetime. So the mason of a house also built the grave of the owner. So that's the very strong, relation. So the investigation process was like, I was trying to understand. So what, the building process was meaning for the local community. So how they try to get involved into it, and also how to also they try to get involved in the mosque recovery. So I tried to go through a few interview and also field survey, and also trying to see exactly if they have also a kind of spiritual relation that's also in the intangible way to the earthen architecture. So, and I try also to hear about the testimony of the masons. So, I will not go through because I don't have time, but I try to ask them environment while growing up, reason for becoming a mason, how to pass down the architectural secret possessed by the master of the discipline, and also a precaution when building earthen architecture, and expected future role of earthen architecture building activities and intangible culture, and taught about also the modernization of sites of JNA. So this is, the masons I try to ask and then try to see their involvement into the building. So I will just summary the, this part. So all three masons admitted that some kind of ritual is needed on the site. And then the route to becoming an earthen architecture masons in JNA is not a clear hereditary system. In addition, so there are multiple routes to learn. So it is really necessary to perform a more advanced analysis. So the mason's work or métier consists of technique and magic, which is very interesting. It's a kind of ritual, has a strong magical element, but when listening to recording their prayers, they use also a different way of doing that. So, I will not go through that, but it was very interesting to understand how much they are related to the earthen architecture. So the problem with the teacher-apprentice system is that there is no guarantee that an individual will be able to learn the magical part, even if he acquired the skills. So in recent years, there has been a divergence between young, sometimes trained at school, and all strictly traditional Mason in the JNA Masons Association. So the future projects for JNA as an earthen architecture. So I also tried to see what kind of a project recently are in JNA, how the local population was involved into that kind of project. So in JNA, you can see many projects which was built by the foreign associations, as you can see here. So one is the Heritage House, one is also the Craftsman, Center of JNA, and also they have the JNA Museum and the JNA Manuscript Library. So for me, I try to see how the population can get more involved into this kind of project, and then trying to see also how I can support that from the Japanese side. So those projects will have more impact if really the population can get involved into it. But actually, in that time, all the 4 facilities are there. People are not yet involved into their use because they don't know how they come. But they're involved. They try to build a kind of what they call the patrimoine JNA. That's a house. They wanted also to show all the building techniques. And so, okay, so, I go very quickly to the conclusion. So architectural heritage conservation, by whom, for what? How to define the role of the different actors involving in the conservation process, how to involve local communities in the conservation process. The issue of heritage management is communication and how to transmit the philosophy of architectural heritage conservation to the next generations. JNA's people are very proud of their city, but why they do what they have to keep it as only a tourist attraction. So that's their problem. They don't want to keep Jene as tourist attraction. In addition, building maintenance is increasingly expensive in relation to the average standard of living. So traditional materials are also becoming difficult to obtain. For these reasons, new construction projects have decreased in numbers, and many young people have moved out of Jene. So that's the recent picture I took from Jene. And then it's really like, I mean, very sad to see that, you know, like, I mean, some conservation are not going through, and then people also are abandoning a lot of buildings. And also they are also using some new materials like such as, you know, bricks and even concrete to do some, I mean, conservation and preservation. So, okay, I will go very quickly to the conclusion. I was discussing with a Chinese architect about, like, I mean, the Jene. So, and also I will bring some, you know, idea about, like, I mean, how I see exactly this. So why do we conserve for, if not humanity? That's by Nelson Mandela. The only legacy of human is life. So they imply conservation of world cultural heritage is the responsibility of all people, but also for the future generation of all. Local people are the closest friends or enemies of the cultural heritage so that they can protect or destroy it. Therefore, the protection of world cultural heritage requires the participation of local communities and the support of international partners. Currently, the biggest threat facing the Sahel-Sahara area is insecurity. Heritage-centered sustainable tourism is a driver behind the revitalization of the value of world cultural heritage and the sustainable development of local communities. If these medieval towns are organically linked through sustainable tourism, there is a hope for peace in this region. So the remark, during my research, they undertake a crisis for many years due to the generation gap and the process of participating in conservation projects supporting by foreign institutions. In conclusion, Jene's earthen architecture is not only a technical result of a reconstruction activity, but also a range of social cultural activities which should be part of the World Heritage Site. The role of a mason needs to be well understood before any further analysis on the conservation of Jene's earthen architecture can be performed. So one other problem in Jene that needs further investigation and consideration is sustainability of the Mason Group Bariton. Jene is facing a loss of transmission of tangible and intangible expertise. Traditionally, transmission was carried out within a rigorous framework, from the elders to the youngest, mostly within the same family or in a heritage system, through a system of apprenticeship, sometimes starting at the beginning of adolescence. With schooling crisis and the gap between generations, many master masons in Jene have failed to fully transmit their knowledge and expertise to the next generation. This knowledge and abilities need to be urgently achieved and documented as part of the World Heritage Conservation System. Thank you very much to listening to me, and this is the end of my presentation.
Thank you very much, Professor Sako, for your efforts to preserve African heritage. And thank you for this presentation based on comparative approach to different conservation area of earthen architecture, but which again underlines the importance of involving local communities in the conservation process and how this contribute to their improvement, and hope at the end that Jene find its dynamism again. Let me thank all our speakers once again for their presentation. I will now turn to questions from the audience. I have a question from Sravani. He's asking about the details of any digital medium used to document damages on earthen on heritage structure. So the question is for Toka, Dr. Abdul Rahman, and Nader, I think. So, Dr. Abdul Rahman?
Yes,
you want to answer to this question, or maybe?
I can answer for it, but I just want to if you could repeat it again, because I think he talks about
He's asking about the details of any digital medium used to document damages.
Yeah, there are different kind
On
of different kind of documentation of the earthen structures, but it depends of he wanted to make a documentation on the large scale for it as an earthen structure, as a structure. In this case, we're using something like laser scanner, or he wanted to enter to know the medium used in the mud brick itself. It depends. It's very large question, but there are, in brief, I can say, I can answer. We make a documentation for structural object on 3 levels. First one, it is a structural one, and we're using in that laser scanner and some programs like finite analysis to understand the structure. If you wanted to know about the art of it, if there is some calligraphy or something like that, we're using the multispectral photo like ultraviolet, IR imaging, racking light. And if he wants to know if there is a medium between the grains, because sometimes using protein and the compositional, we're going to making analysis like XRD and FTIR. Hope I can understand and answer his question. But it's very
we have another
large
question for you, Dr. Abdul Rahman. Is someone asking if the organic material to be used in conservation are the same used in the past? That's, he's talking about the archaeological sites you were talking about, and how do you plan to sustain their sources?
Okay, this is very question. The first, very nice question. The first thing, if you can using the organic material already used while they are doing the mud brick, they putting straw and sometimes they adding some additives like proteins, which kind like glue or something like that, or oxide, while they are building the steady mud brick, the standard mud brick. But with time, with the conservation, we found that by using this organic material, we have advantage and disadvantage. So now we are working to trying to using the nano technique. The nano technique, it's the nano size of polymers, and we mixing these polymers together, and we are trying to adapt using it. The most important things, as my colleague said today, is 2 things: sustainability and saving the authenticity of the material, but also from the conservation point of view, is to make consolidation very adapt with the material. And if I'm using this organic material now, it's the molecules of it, it's very big. So it making a film on the surface of the mud brick, and it's attract all the microbiological and dust, and it makes a lot of problem and then peeling out. So we are trying to using nanotechnology now, nano compose the material to make a compatible consolidation for the material. For the fund sources, until now, we haven't enough fund sources. Of course, the Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities making some money for saving these sites. Also, there are some projects, and maybe we will apply for funds for making a project for that. Because it's a very large city. It's not only Balad, there is Balad and El Qasra and many cities in Egypt needs really a conservation.
Thank you very much, Dr. Abdul Rahman. I don't know, Shireen, we have other questions? I think the other questions have been answered on the Q&A session, so you can
Yes.
go back. Yes?
Yes, true. Most of them have been answered, I think.
Thank you. So before I give the floor for Shireen to close the session, I would like to thank my colleagues behind the scene who participated in the success of this webinar. Olfemi, Thierry, Karima, Fatima, and Dr. Zaki Aslan, the director of Ikram Sharjah. So the word is yours, Shireen. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tinhinan. Before we conclude this webinar, I would like also once again to thank and express gratitude to all the panelists, and also to our organizing team from ICROM that has been working so hard to bring these webinars to you. We also would like to thank the attendees for participating in this webinar and raising important questions and issues. The recorded version of this webinar will be shortly made available on our YouTube channel, linked to our website. Please note that recordings of the previous webinars are also available at ICROM Lecture Series page. We would like to invite all to our next webinar that will take place in 23rd February, titled Informational Data Management and Cultural Heritage. Information on our future webinars is made available at our website under ICROM Lecture Series and other social media platforms. Thank you for being with us. Please stay safe and goodbye to everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Bye, everyone.
Goodbye. Goodbye. Thank you very much.